It was supposed to be just another night of late-night laughs and celebrity banter. Jimmy Kimmel, the king of late-night television, was ready to entertain his audience with his usual blend of humor and sharp commentary. But when Elon Musk stepped onto the stage, the mood shifted instantly. What started as a light-hearted interview spiraled quickly into a confrontation that stunned everyone present, and millions watching live. How does a simple talk show turn into a battlefield? What happens when wit meets relentless truth? Tonight, you will witness a clash unlike any other, where one man's confidence shattered the illusion of control on a live stage. Make sure to like and subscribe for more unfiltered stories that shake the status quo. The stage was set in a packed television studio, bright lights overhead, cameras rolling, and an audience buzzing with anticipation. Jimmy Kimmel, known for his quick humor and sometimes biting sarcasm, walked out with a confident grin. He had done hundreds of interviews, but tonight his guest was someone few could anticipate. Elon Musk, the visionary entrepreneur known for his unorthodox ideas and unfiltered public persona. As Elon Musk took his seat, the atmosphere changed. There was an electric tension, an unspoken challenge that seemed to hang in the air like a storm about to break. Jimmy opened with his usual charm, cracking jokes about Musk's latest ventures: space travel, electric cars, artificial intelligence. The crowd laughed politely, waiting for the punchlines, but then came the first question that didn't sit right. "Mr. Musk," Jimmy began, "some say you're a genius, others call you reckless. How do you respond to those who think your ideas are too dangerous for society?" A murmur spread through the audience. Was this going to be a serious discussion, or just another late-night roast? Elon's gaze sharpened, and his reply cut through the laughter like a blade. "Dangerous or disruptive?" Elon asked, his voice calm but firm. "Is it reckless to push humanity forward, or is it reckless to stay stuck in old ways because they are comfortable?" The audience was silent. Was Jimmy ready for this? Jimmy's smile flickered. He tried to regain control with a sarcastic quip about Elon's tweets and social media antics, but Musk was relentless. Can we really afford to laugh off innovation when the planet is changing beneath our feet? When people are left behind by outdated systems? Musk's questions hit harder than any punchline. The tension escalated. Jimmy's responses grew sharper, edging into confrontation territory. "Some say you're playing with fire. Doesn't that make you the biggest risk in the room?" Musk leaned forward, unblinking. "Or the only one willing to ignite a real change? Was this a battle of egos, or a deeper clash of visions?" The audience leaned in, caught between laughter and disbelief. The line between entertainment and reality blurred. Rhetorical questions hung in the air. What is progress, if not disruption? Who gets to decide what's too dangerous? And most importantly, can humor survive when the stakes are this high? The segment spiraled further when Jimmy, trying to land a final jab, mentioned Musk's controversial statements and mishaps. But instead of backing down, Musk fired back with facts and unexpected candor, exposing cracks in the late-night host's usual armor. By the time the cameras cut to a commercial, it was clear. This was no ordinary interview. This was a turning point. And the live audience, wide-eyed and silent, understood something fundamental had shifted on that stage. The commercial break ended, but the atmosphere in the studio had transformed entirely. The audience, previously laughing and relaxed, now sat in a tense anticipation. The usual rhythm of a late-night show had been disrupted, replaced by a charged energy that neither Jimmy Kimmel nor Elon Musk could ignore. When the cameras resumed, Jimmy tried to steer the conversation back to lighter territory, attempting a few jokes to ease the growing tension. Yet the attempt fell flat. Elon's demeanor remained unwavering, focused on challenging every assumption and narrative presented by Kimmel. "You say you want to make people laugh, Jimmy, but what happens when the truth is no longer funny?" Elon's voice was calm but piercing. Is entertainment supposed to be just distraction, or should it push us to confront uncomfortable realities? The crowd murmured in agreement, some nodding, others exchanging looks of surprise. Jimmy's composure was visibly shaken. The man who had built a career on comedic timing was now forced to grapple with a relentless adversary who wielded facts and logic instead of jokes. The debate escalated quickly as Elon brought up some of Jimmy's previous monologues, dissecting them line by line. Was comedy losing its edge by avoiding real issues? Did late-night shows have a responsibility beyond ratings? The questions hung in the air like challenges thrown down. Jimmy, clearly feeling the pressure, struck back with a cutting remark about Musk's public controversies and bold claims. The jab was met not with silence, but with a calm, calculated rebuttal that struck at the core of the conversation. Controversy is inevitable when you challenge the status quo, Elon said quietly. If avoiding controversy means avoiding truth, then we've lost the game before it even started. At that moment, the dynamic shifted. What started as a clash between a host and a guest became a symbolic struggle between two visions of influence. One of control through humor and entertainment, the other through disruption and relentless pursuit of change. The live audience was caught in the middle of this escalating war of words, their reactions swinging wildly between laughter, shock, and thoughtful silence. Who would emerge victorious? Could Jimmy regain control, or was he slowly being dismantled by a man who refused to play by the usual rules? As Elon continued, he raised the stakes further, unveiling uncomfortable truths about societal complacency, media manipulation, and the cost of ignoring innovation. It was a moment few expected on a late-night stage, a raw confrontation that blurred lines between debate, accusation, and revelation. Was this humiliation or a necessary reckoning? Was Jimmy Kimmel simply a man caught off guard, or a representative of an outdated system being challenged in real time? The tension thickened, the audience's eyes glued to the stage as the night unfolded into something unforgettable. The question remained: how far would the exchange go before the inevitable conclusion? And who would walk away changed? As the cameras rolled once more, the studio's atmosphere had shifted from tense curiosity to full-blown confrontation. The audience, initially entertained by what they assumed would be a typical late-night exchange, now found themselves witnessing something far more profound, an unraveling of carefully constructed personas and a battle over the very nature of truth and influence. Jimmy Kimmel, visibly trying to regain his footing, leaned into the conversation with a mix of defensiveness and frustration. His usual playful smirk was gone, replaced by a furrowed brow and tightening jaw. Elon Musk, calm and unyielding, held the stage with the steady confidence of someone who had long prepared for such scrutiny. "You've built your career on making people laugh, Jimmy," Elon said, voice steady but cutting. "But when the laughter masks the real problems, doesn't that make you complicit in the distractions?" The question echoed through the studio, heavy and unexpected. The audience gasped, murmured, and shifted in their seats. Had late-night comedy become a shield for avoidance? Was this the moment when entertainment's role was put under an unflinching microscope? Jimmy shot back with a sharp retort, accusing Musk of playing the role of the provocateur. "So now you're the judge of what's real? The man who sends rockets to Mars and tweets into the void?" His words had a bite, but Elon was unfazed. "Provocateur, visionary, or just honest?" Elon replied, leaning forward slightly. "Is it easier to dismiss uncomfortable truths by calling someone a provocateur than to face them head-on?" This exchange was not just about personal attacks anymore. It was a war of narratives. Jimmy represented the establishment, the polished, rehearsed, and curated world of television where humor softened harsh realities. Elon symbolized disruption, the raw, often uncomfortable force, demanding accountability and change, no matter how inconvenient. The tension in the room was palpable. The audience was no longer passive observers. They were emotionally invested, caught between empathy for Jimmy's challenge and admiration for Elon's fearless honesty. As the debate deepened, Elon revealed a series of sharp observations that struck at the heart of media responsibility. He questioned whether shows like Jimmy's were complicit in perpetuating misinformation by prioritizing ratings over truth. Did humor become a tool for gaslighting, making serious issues seem trivial? Jimmy, desperate to maintain control, attempted to pivot back to humor, but was interrupted by Elon's piercing gaze. "Is laughter really the best medicine if it comes at the cost of ignorance?" Musk challenged. A hush fell over the crowd. The question was rhetorical, but it pierced like a spotlight. How often did people accept entertainment as reality? And how dangerous was that blurred line? Then came the moment that sealed the evening's dramatic turn. Elon, sensing Jimmy's weakening grip, launched into an unfiltered critique, not just of the host, but of the culture that allowed such shows to dominate public discourse without accountability. "You have millions watching Jimmy. That's power. But with power comes responsibility," Elon said slowly, each word deliberate. "Are you willing to own that, or will you continue hiding behind jokes and punchlines?" The room was electric. Jimmy's face registered a flash of something, rarely seen on live television: vulnerability. For a split second, the curtain dropped on the carefully crafted persona. Was this a man grappling with the limits of his influence? Or was it the beginning of a retreat? Elon pressed on, his voice softening but growing more intense. "This isn't about humiliation. It's about awakening. What will you do when the audience stops laughing and starts demanding real answers?" The line between conflict and revelation blurred. The exchange was no longer about individual egos, but a larger reckoning with media's role in shaping reality. The audience, caught in the raw emotional currents, found themselves asking, who truly holds the power? The entertainer who keeps people distracted, or the disruptor who forces uncomfortable truths into the spotlight? The live broadcast captured every second: the escalating tension, the shifting power dynamic, the rare glimpse behind the masks. Social media erupted simultaneously, viewers dissecting every word, every glance, every unspoken moment. And then, just as the confrontation reached its peak, Jimmy Kimmel's composure cracked. Whether from frustration, realization, or something deeper, he abruptly stood, signaling the end of the interview with a terse remark. The studio was stunned into silence. Was this an exit in defeat or a strategic retreat? The questions hung unanswered in the charged air. As the cameras cut, the audience sat stunned, processing what they had just witnessed. A collision of worlds, a confrontation of values, and a moment that would ripple far beyond one television show. The studio lights dimmed momentarily as the broadcast cut to a commercial break, but the tension in the air was suffocating. Backstage, the usually bustling corridors felt heavy with anticipation and whispered speculation. Crew members exchanged nervous glances, knowing they had just witnessed a rare moment of live television fracture, something raw, unfiltered, and unforgettable. Jimmy Kimmel retreated to the green room, his expression a storm of conflicting emotions. The confident, quick-witted host was now a man grappling with a harsh spotlight, one that illuminated cracks in his carefully maintained image. Elon Musk, meanwhile, remained poised, almost serene, as if he had expected this confrontation all along. When the cameras returned, Elon took a moment to address the audience directly, bypassing the usual host-guest dynamic. "Tonight was more than a debate," he said, voice steady and clear. "It was a reflection of the deeper tensions in our society, between comfort and confrontation, between distraction and truth." The audience was silent, absorbing the weight of those words. Elon continued, urging viewers to question the narratives they consume daily. Who controls the stories we hear? What do we choose to laugh at, and what do we choose to ignore? These questions matter because they shape the world we live in. Behind the scenes, Jimmy prepared to return, his face composed, but eyes shadowed with doubt. The live show was no longer a performance. It was a battlefield for ideas and influence, and every word now carried extraordinary significance. As Jimmy came back on stage, the atmosphere shifted again. The confrontation was far from over, but this time there was a noticeable change. Less bravado, more reflection. The host appeared determined to reclaim the narrative, but the challenge was monumental. "Look, Elon," Jimmy began, his tone measured but edged with weariness. "I get it. You want to shake things up. But isn't there value in making people smile? In giving them a break from all the chaos?" Elon smiled faintly, a gesture devoid of mockery. "Of course there is," he replied. "But what happens when that break turns into blindness? When we laugh so hard that we forget to see the world as it truly is?" The exchange sparked a wave of murmurs throughout the crowd. Was it possible to balance entertainment with responsibility? Could humor coexist with honesty without compromising either? Suddenly, the conversation took a personal turn. Elon acknowledged the power of media figures like Jimmy, who wield influence that shapes public opinion. Yet he challenged Jimmy to consider the cost of that influence when it is used to gloss over inconvenient truths. "Every joke has a price," Elon said quietly. "And sometimes that price is silence when there should be speaking up." The emotional weight of the moment was palpable. The studio, once filled with laughter and applause, now felt like a chamber of introspection. The audience was no longer passive. They were engaged, grappling with the profound questions raised on live television. Jimmy, sensing the shift, paused. His voice softened, carrying an honesty rarely heard in such a setting. "Maybe you're right," he admitted. "Maybe it's time to rethink how we do this, how we balance humor with truth." It was a moment of vulnerability, a crack in the armor that humanized the host. The audience responded with applause, not for a victory, but for courage. The courage to face difficult truths and the willingness to evolve. Elon nodded in approval, a quiet acknowledgement of the hard-fought exchange. The debate was no longer about humiliation or defeat, but about growth and responsibility. As the show neared its end, the mood shifted once more, this time toward resolution. Both men, despite their differences, found a shared purpose: to push the conversation forward, to challenge audiences to think critically, and to use their platforms wisely. The live broadcast closed on this note of uneasy but hopeful reconciliation. The audience, moved and provoked, knew they had witnessed something extraordinary, a rare moment where entertainment met earnestness, and conflict gave way to potential change. As the credits rolled, viewers across the nation began to reflect on the powerful dialogue debating in forums, social media, and homes. The night was no longer about one man's humiliation, but about a collective awakening. The final moments of the broadcast carried a weight that no one in the studio could ignore. The conversation between Jimmy Kimmel and Elon Musk had transcended typical late-night banter, turning into a cultural flashpoint that would resonate far beyond that night. The cameras panned over the audience, many visibly moved, some nodding in agreement, others deep in thought, all connected by the raw honesty they had just witnessed. Jimmy, standing center stage once more, took a deep breath. The vulnerability he had shown earlier had not diminished his stature. Rather, it humanized him. "Tonight wasn't about winning or losing," he said, voice steady and sincere. "It was about challenging ourselves, our ideas, our responsibilities, and what we expect from those who hold influence." The applause was genuine and prolonged. The crowd recognized a moment of truth, a turning point where performance met authenticity. Elon Musk nodded appreciatively, his own expression one of quiet satisfaction. Not triumph, but purpose fulfilled. In those last exchanges, They had modeled something rare in the polarized world of media and politics: respectful confrontation paired with a willingness to listen and grow. It was a lesson not lost on viewers watching from home, who had seen the unvarnished complexity behind public personas. Outside the studio, social media exploded. Clips of the debate spread like wildfire, sparking conversations about media ethics, the role of entertainment in public discourse, and the responsibility of influencers in shaping truth. Was humor still just a way to escape, or could it be a tool for enlightenment? For Jimmy Kimmel, the night marked a new chapter. The embarrassment and tension had given way to introspection and renewed purpose. No longer just a host, he now carried a message, one of accountability and the power of honest dialogue. Elon Musk, often seen as a disruptor, had played his part not as a conqueror, but as a catalyst. His challenge was clear: to question, to provoke, and to push beyond comfort zones. But more importantly, to invite others to join the journey toward greater awareness. As the studio emptied and the lights dimmed for good, those who had been part of this historic broadcast felt the weight of what had transpired. It was not just entertainment. It was a moment that held a mirror to society, forcing everyone to reconsider where they stood. In the end, the night was not about humiliation, but about transformation. Two very different figures had clashed, yet found common ground in the shared human struggle for meaning and truth. The audience was left to ask themselves, what role will they play in the stories yet to come? Will they choose laughter that blinds, or courage that enlightens? The answer, for many, was already beginning to take shape. The broadcast had sparked a movement, one that reminded viewers everywhere that even in conflict, there is opportunity. Opportunity to listen, to learn, and to change. The screen faded to black, but the conversation was far from over. It had only just begun.